Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off and running, hour number 3 after further review here on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. Moscona will be back on Monday. Taylor Sharp, Paul O'Neill along for the ride, and glad you're along for the ride here as we send you into your weekend. 1 hour to go. If you're just getting off work, hopping in the car, we appreciate you for making us a part of your day. LSU baseball, they will open up a 4-game weekend in about an hour and a half out at the box. Face Dartmouth on Friday night, Northeastern Saturday afternoon, Dartmouth again on Sunday afternoon, and Northeastern to round out the weekend there on Monday evening out at the box. Northeastern earlier today defeated Grambling at Alec Box Stadium 4-1. That was the Huskies' first win on the young season. What I want to do here in this segment with LSU baseball, I want to tell you a little bit about what I want to see from the Tigers as they take on these two teams over the course of the weekend. Because these two teams both come in licking some wounds. LSU has the talent advantage by a lot. LSU, is just the more fundamentally sound team by a lot. LSU's big favorites this weekend for a reason. But coming off of a loss where some things didn't go necessarily great for you, you look for improvements there. Coming off of a weekend that went very well for you, especially from a starting pitching standpoint, what can you see there as well? And I think there's plenty. We'll start on the mound. And I'll start with starting pitching. A weekend ago, Casey Evans, Cooper Moore, William Schmidt, they combined to give LSU 15 2/3 innings pitched. All of them went at least 5. And they pitched to an ERA of 2.9. They were very, very good. It wasn't without some hiccups, but for the most part, they were very, very good. Let's start with Casey Evans. I need you to at least match what you did a week ago. That's what I'm looking for. Can you get me 5 good innings again to where LSU has the lead when you leave? It would be nice to also see him limit damage a little bit better, avoid that big inning. That's what's hampered him in these starts. He had the 4-run 4th against Milwaukee, the 3-run 3rd against Indiana. Can you limit that? Really avoid giving up the big hit in those innings? Because I'll tell you, when I look at LSU's pitching staff, the thing for me that has, been the intrigue for me with this LSU pitching staff, it's been them giving up that big hit. I know a lot of people want to focus on the free passes. That's fine. LSU is going to get that figured out. They struggled with free passes for a time a year ago. They got that figured out. It'll happen again. The big hit's a little more concerning because that's what's made those free passes hurt. Look at Tuesday night in that second inning. Or excuse me, the second inning. Free passes loaded the bases. Free passes brought a couple in, but that was all with 2 outs. What blew it open and ultimately was the difference in the game was the two RBI single that Cooper Williams allowed to Barbero from McNeese State. You get out of that inning with just 2, you have a much better chance, but you gave that big hit that allowed 2 more to come in. And that's kind of been a thing for LSU's pitching staff going throughout. Casey Evans included in that. So get me 5, at least again, and limit the damage. That's the baseline here. If you want to see more, I would tell you he's thrown 70 to 80 pitches kind of in each outing. Let's get you into the 90s. And if he's cruising along and he's efficient, he's landing his secondary stuff, which will, lead to more efficiency, can you get me 6? Can we just continue to lengthen that out? With Cooper Moore, I'm already at the point where I'm just like, hey, man, go out there and do your thing. But keep doing what you're doing. He's been awesome. He has thrown 80% strikes one week and 79% strikes the next week. He gave up the big fly, which kind of messed up his line a little bit against Notre Dame, but he was exceptional that day as well. The strikeout numbers are up. He walked his first batter of the year. He went to his first 3-ball count of the year in like the 3rd inning against Notre Dame. He's just been awesome, and if he's able to have that stuff again, he will cruise. I feel very confident in him being able to get anybody out really the course of the season. So for him, it's really just kind of do what you do. Can he extend a little bit more? I'd love to see that from him. Higher pitch count, things of that nature. I think that'd be great. Then you get to William Schmidt, and this is the same vein with Case and Evans. I need you to at least get me 5 again like you did. I want to see you land the breaking stuff at the same clip or close to like you did against UCF, because that completely changed the game for William Schmidt. It's the conversation I've been having about him ever since last season when he debuted, and it's something that he mentioned himself here on AFR on Monday about how big that was for him in that outing. It led to more strikes. It led to more strikeouts. 1 walk. That was the key, and he threw shutout baseball. I'm not asking you to go 5 shutout again, but I am asking you to go to 5 again. That's a guy who has got to 90 pitches each of his first 2. Can you have a little bit more efficiency, maybe get into the 6th inning this go-round, or they extend you over 100 here in week 3, and that helps you do that. For Evans and Schmidt, it's simple. Match the 5 innings. And then we can talk about you extending depending on where you are in the game. Jay Johnson was asked about William Schmidt when he met with the media on Thursday and about that development that they've seen so far from his freshman year into 2 starts here in 2026.
I think he's going to be really good. I've always thought that. I think he's working really hard. I think he's used his experience well. We have a process we're building with him to get him prepared to pitch and execute that I feel really good about for his structure of his entire week, that I think he's taken another level of ownership over. A player like I'm heavily involved in it, even though I'm not the pitching coach. And then obviously, having Coach Yeski's experience with good young pitchers and then bringing them along, Jamie's expertise, I feel like you're just going to see him continue to get better.
That's ultimately what everybody's looking for, is for him to make that jump. And hopefully he will. A couple of other things, hopefully he will continue to do so. A couple of other things to look at here that I'm watching for this weekend. LSU's catchers, Cade Arenbeet and Omar Cerna, controlling the running game. Both Dartmouth and Northeastern like to run on the base paths. Northeastern, for instance, today in their game against Grambling, they stole 10 bases. In one game, they stole 10 bases. That is very much a part of their offense. It is of Dartmouth's as well. This is really the first time Cade Arenbeet is going to be challenged with slowing down an aggressive base running team. And I want to see how he does. We know he's got a cannon behind the plate. The same goes for Omar Cerna, because Omar Cerna is going to catch this weekend, most likely on Saturday against Northeastern. Maybe they hold that off because they're so volatile on the bases. You might want to see Arenbeet in there at that spot. But Arenbeet's not going to catch all 4 games. Cerna's going to get in there. And when he does, he's going to have to be ready to control the running game as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. LSU has got to be fundamentally sound in the field and everywhere, on the mound and in the field. You have to limit free passes, and when the ball is hit to you, catch it, make sure it goes to its desired destination. Throw it to the right place. Get the out. These teams, the way they stay in these games is if you allow them to. See Tuesday night. Not to say that they don't have talented players. We talked about that. Look, Dartmouth's a very veteran team. Northeastern's got a lot of guys back from their lineup a year ago, but they're off to a slow start, and on the mound, they're replacing 90% of their innings from a year ago. Don't give these teams second chances. fundamentally sound. And then I want to see a fast start from LSU on offense again in each game. They kind of got outside of themselves, as Jay Johnson said post-game, in that McNeese game. Now later, they kind of got back to that constant pressure. The big hit just eluded him that night. That's going to happen sometimes. I wouldn't expect that to really hamper LSU this weekend. But the fast start is going to be really key too, because again, we're talking about not letting these teams hang around. You get out there, you get them down early, and you should be able to dictate the pace of this weekend entirely. A couple of the arms that LSU will see. Nate Eisler has led the rotation for Dartmouth so far this season. He has allowed 3 earned runs over 4 innings in 2 starts. He has struck out 5 for the Big Green. Imagine that's potentially who you see for for Dartmouth against LSU here tonight. They have not posted a lineup yet, but that's just a guy to look at for Northeastern. Robbie O'Connor, their Friday night guy, pitched earlier today as expected. Andrew Wirtz has been their Saturday guy, and that's a big arm from Andrew Wirtz. You're looking at 95 to 97 on the fastball. Stock righty, got a nice breaking ball to go along with it as well. So it moves more like a slider. So that's good stuff. The problem is he has just not – it's just not gone well for him. It's an ERA of 11.5. He has walked He's walked 5 in 7 innings, given up 9 earned. The opponent's hitting .355. So while the stuff is very good and has potential, him harnessing that has been a bit of an issue. But you're going to see if it is Wirtz who ends up going for Northeastern. I know Jay Johnson on Thursday didn't have the starter, so he refused to announce Cooper Moore. But anyway, gotta love Jay. But if it is Wirtz, the stuff is good, but the production has not followed suit with that stuff. But there are, you look up and down this Northeastern pitching staff, and while they're trying to come together, went through a lot of guys on the preview on Musso at the Box. If you didn't check that out, you still have time to do that. Went through a lot of their pitchers there, and every single one of them gets into the low 90s. So, I mean, you're going to see pretty good stuff from Northeastern. That is a program that prides themselves on their pitching, as well with Dartmouth. There's some veteran options there in that bullpen, as well as we said, their whole team. But you can expect to see some lively stuff from these two pitching staffs, which, again, I would hope should lead to really good at bats and some hard hit balls with maybe a little more accustomed to what LSU has seen, especially with a team like Northeastern. It all gets underway at the Box a little over an hour from right now. Hopefully we'll get a chance to get you the lineup card before we get out of here on a Friday edition of AFR. Okay, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. How'd the Saints players grade their team? We'll tell you next here on AFR. Back here after further review. It is a Friday edition. Let me get set to send you into your weekend here. It's that time of year where the NFLPA conducts their survey, has the players on every team in the league grade their team in a variety of different areas: training staff, locker room, head coach, ownership, dining, all those things. And they give out a report card, and they rank the teams that way. And the NFLPA actually had said they were going to stop releasing these, and ESPN said, okay, that's fine. Someone's going to leak them to us anyway, and we'll just report them that way. And that's exactly what happened. So we have the grades this year for the New Orleans Saints. And I'll tell you what, it is a nice improvement in a lot of different areas for the Saints from a year ago. Like, that is the takeaway here. We'll start first and foremost with head coach. Dennis Allen, a year ago, was graded out a B-. That was 29 out of 32 head coaches in the league. Not overly surprising. He got fired. B- for a head coach, really not that great of a grade. But you look at this so far in year one under Kellen Moore got an A-, which I think tracks. When you hear about everything the guys said about him in the media, how much they enjoyed playing for him, how much they enjoyed he ran the program, ran the team, whether it was the offseason program, how they structured practice, all of those things, the team meetings, everyone was extremely complimentary of Kellen Moore, and this backs it up to show you that, man, it's not just lip service, right, to the media, that they're not going to get out there and badmouth their head coach. It's pretty important when an anonymous survey turns in him getting an A-. And I think that speaks great for the future of the franchise, honestly. I mean, we all feel like Kellen Moore had a really good first year as the head coach. It wasn't without growing pains. There were things early in the season from a game management standpoint that you saw him correct later in the year, and they closed the season strong. And he was able to really keep buy-in that entire time. That's huge, too. I'd be much more concerned if it was, the comments you heard in the media and you get this report card back and Kellen Moore's like a B+. Especially for a head coach who specializes in one area like Kellen Moore does on the offensive side of the ball and calls plays. He spends the bulk of his time with the offensive personnel. So to see the team and a lot of players across the team vote on this and have him A-, because again, there's some defensive players in there, that's very, very encouraging. I thought the other one that was huge was Brandon Staley at defensive coordinator getting an A. And again, that tracks too. Demario Davis was on this show at the Super Bowl and talked about how much he loved playing from Brandon Staley, how much he attributed his career highs in multiple categories this past season to playing in Brandon Staley's system. And I think it's likewise for the rest of his teammates. An A for a defense that finished top 10 in the league after starting out pretty rough and going through some growing pains. Again, that speaks well to the future. And I really hope that Brandon Staley is here for a while. But I think we all understand at some point a head coaching job is going to come calling for him again, and he's going to take that. When that is, we'll wait and see. But for now, you have a really good defensive coordinator in there who the players seem to love. How about Gale? Gale gets an A- for team ownership. You love to see that. That's right on par with last year. Not really much of an improvement, but we talk about it all the time with Gale Benson in particular, but what makes good owners in sports? They get out of the way. They spend, and they give their team everything that they need in order to be successful, and then they fade into the background. And that's a hat tip to her and the Saints organization for areas that they really, really improved in this season. How about the food and dining area? Now, this deserves context because the last 2 years, the Saints were doing construction on that entire part of the facility. So, of course, it wasn't good. But that went from a D- a year ago up to an A-. But it's not just the investment that you saw there. The training room improved in this survey. Goes from a B+ up to an A. The training staff improved this year from a B+ up to an A. Facilities, the weight room, that improved. So another good sign of investment from a B+ a year ago up to an A-. And that's really all the way down the list here. Another point of improvement was the treatment of families. Went from a C+ a year ago up to a B. And it's very good. And you heard that a lot throughout the season as well with the Saints organization. Really, when you get to this time of free agency and guys talk about their time in New Orleans, you'll hear that come up. And so to see that improvement, that's good because you need, obviously, those players spend so much time away from their families. They want to know that they're taken care of on game days and with travel and things of that nature. So good on the Saints for some improvement there. And then general manager. They gave Mickey Loomis a B. So congrats to Mickey Loomis. I'm not overly surprised by that. I'm sure a lot of the guys like Mickey. They negotiate well. The Saints front office make sure these guys always get their money. And I mean, the players on the team are the players on the team who want to be there. So they're going to give you a pretty good grade. It's not a stellar grade. I mean, B's okay. That's really middle of the pack when it comes to these. You know, you don't really see a lot of Fs and F minuses. Not that you don't see any. The Buccaneers got a few, which was interesting. I actually want to circle back to that here momentarily. But it's in large part, Saints front office, Mickey Loomis, those guys take care of the players, get them what they need. So the grade makes a lot of sense there. Overall, the New Orleans Saints in 2024, they graded out 10th best in the NFL. A season ago, they were 12th best. They were right on par with that. They were 11th best here in 2025. I think that's huge because if you're talking about having money to spend in free agency now and you want to attract teams here, seeing these great reports from the players that are already here who enjoy being here, the improvements that have been made, all of that to me really seems like it should just overall make the Saints a more desirable destination. And then, oh, by the way, they have money to spend actually in free agency this year, which is a little deviation from the norm there for the New Orleans Saints. Some other ones that I wanted to get into that I found interesting and for all the wrong reasons. The Arizona Cardinals, who we know are just kind of a dumpster fire, finished 31st. Team ownership got an F. Team travel got a C+. Locker room got an F-, the lowest grade possible. And treatment of families got a D+. Stay hot, Cardinals. That's just real good. How about the Bucks? We mentioned the Bucks earlier. Some NFC South brethren there for the New Orleans Saints. They got problems over there in Tampa Bay, man. Todd Bowles gets a B, but got an A- as defensive coordinator. Wow. Call me shocked by that. He's a great defensive coordinator, not a very good head coach, and has had some awesome luck with quarterbacks in his time in Tampa Bay. The Bucks don't feed their teams well. D+, food and dining, clean it up. They also treat families like dirt, a D for that grade for Tampa Bay. Home game field, F-. That actually surprised me. I feel like Raymond James Stadium is really nice. And I feel like turf's always kind of in good condition. Unless it's just a monsoon like it was when the Saints went there. Team ownership. Did you see this, Taylor? Did you see the team ownership for the Bucks?
Let's hear it. I'm excited.
D. And team travel, F. The Buccaneers players graded team travel an F and home game field F-. All in all, there were 4 categories out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, however many, 4 that got a grade of A or higher. They were the weight room, the strength coaches, the DC, who's also the head coach, and the GM. Not great times in Tampa. Not great times in Tampa. They were 29th. If you're curious who was last in this, as I was when I looked at it, because, like I said, I like to see things like that. We told you the Cardinals were 31st, so they were next to last. We told you the Bucks were 29th. The Browns were 30th, so it wasn't the Browns, which is, I guess a little shocking. Everybody likes to kick the Browns when they're down. How about the Raiders? Actually, the Raiders graded out great in this. They were 6th, which is really, really surprising.
In Vegas.
New facilities. I mean, Pete Carroll did not grade well. He got a C+. He obviously got fired. Offensive coordinator was an F. But, I mean, everything else was pretty much an A. They're quite happy over there in Vegas. I mean, they are in Vegas. Did you look at these, by the way?
No, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I know who's last.
Okay, you want to give a guess?
It's got to be the New York Jets.
It is not the New York Jets.
I thought Woody Johnson was going to stay hot.
The New York Jets were 18th. They actually liked Aaron Glenn a lot. He got an A, which is fantastic. Team ownership got a B, so not great for Woody Allen, which isn't surprising. The Pittsburgh Steelers were dead last in this.
Which people love the Rooney, so that's a little surprising.
Yeah, team ownership got a D- from the players, which is shocking. General manager, C+. Mike Tomlin got an A. Not surprising. They love playing for Mike T. Team travel graded an F. The home game field graded an F-. Treatment of families graded an F. All of those things that factor into team ownership graded an F for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is shocking because I'm with you. All you hear normally is how great the Rooneys are. And current go of it there over in Pittsburgh, not so much. Do you want to guess who was number 1? And then we got to hit a break.
The Baltimore Ravens.
No, the Ravens, they're not close enough to where I am on this. I don't think the Ravens were actually bad, though. The Ravens ended up 12th, so they were one spot behind the Saints. The Miami Dolphins, number 1, graded out number 1 per their players for organizations in the NFL. I was a bit surprised by that. The lowest grade was special teams coordinator at a B and head coach at a B, which that's not overly surprising there with Mike McDaniel. But everything else, man, A's. Everything else, A's. So look at that. Miami, not a bad place to be. All right, waiting on the lineup to be posted out there at the box. We're less than an hour to first pitch. This is normally about the time that it's posted. Still waiting on that. Hopefully we'll get it for you before the end of the show. But a couple things just to mention here with baseball around the league today. There's some marquee matchups SEC-wise in some tournaments. Ole Miss and Texas, they're out in Houston over at the Astros deal. They're each going to get to face Coastal Carolina. Texas will face Coastal tonight. That matchup's a little watered down now that Coastal lost the top 2 arms in their rotation for 8 weeks, including Cameron Flukie. So that kind of stinks a little bit. But you'll still see a pretty good test for Texas here, who they have looked incredible. I've watched a little bit of them. Dylan Valantis, that was a big question for Texas. Could he transition from shutdown closer into the rotation on a Sunday? And he has just been dominant so far. He has been efficient. He has been just as good as he was at the back end of the bullpen in the rotation. That really changes things for Texas because Ruger Riojas on Friday night is already really good. LSU got a nice dose of him a season ago in Austin in long relief. So they've looked really good. So they'll get a little bit of a test. I'm very high on Ole Miss. I think they are much better than people are giving them credit for, so it'll be nice to see them get tested. Tennessee, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M are all up in Arlington at a college baseball classic up there. State played earlier today, and this was really their first test, and they took on Arizona State. And Arizona State is off to a really good start here in year 5 of Willie Bloomquist. He's got the boys in the desert playing very well. They went to Norman and almost swept Oklahoma. They boat raced them in the first game and then got walked off in the second. That was their first loss of the year. So they got to face State today. It was a pitcher's duel really through almost 5 complete innings. Arizona State's ace, the really good lefty, he hurt his leg backing up home plate in that 5th inning on an RBI single to break the scoreless tie, had to leave the game. And then on the first pitch that the reliever threw, Garrick Fry, a pinch hitter for State, launched a 3-run homer, and that was pretty much all she wrote because Evan McPherson was nails for Mississippi State on the mound today in that game. He threw 7 innings of 1-run balls, struck out 5, fastball got up to 97, and the changeup was devastating. He was a really firm, tight breaking ball as well. That was very good. So Mississippi State passes their first test really with flying colors. They looked great. They'll get a crack at UCLA tomorrow afternoon, which will certainly be one to keep an eye on. Speaking of those UCLA Bruins, they are currently facing the Tennessee Volunteers, and it is just not going well for Tennessee. That game is currently 11-5. UCLA is batting in the top of the 9th. UCLA jumped out to a 5-0 lead. Tennessee cut it to 1 run with a 4 spot in the 4th and then proceeded to give up a 6 spot in the top of the 7th right after putting the 4 spot up in the 6th. They added 1 in the bottom half, but you're looking at 11-5. I watched Tennessee twice last weekend when they played Kent State. And that team looks and feels different. I'm not telling you they're not going to be good. I think Tennessee's going to be good. I think they're going to make the NCAA tournament. But what you've seen is a regression in the pitching staff, particularly the bullpen. I think they feel really good about their top two starters in Tegan Coons and Landon Mack. Get a little interesting with Evan Blanco on Sunday. The bullpen did not really impress me very much over the weekend against Kent State. A lot of free passes. They pitched behind in the count. You've seen free passes again here today. 6 of them now. They've hit 4 batters and walked 2. All 6 of those free passes have come from Tennessee's bullpen. Look, Frank Anderson, the longtime pitching coach, who was as big of a part of that as anything, left with Tony Vitello to go serve in a support staff role with him with the San Francisco Giants. Tennessee also committed 3 errors in this ballgame. The defense let them down plenty against Kent State as well. And the offense has been slow to really jive. I mean, look at that series against Kent State. Now, I will throw the caveat out that the weather was brutal in Knoxville last weekend. The wind was blowing in. It was cold, especially that Sunday game. There was hardly anybody there, and the people who were there were bundled from head to toe. So it wasn't great conditions offensively, but you go to Tuesday, that was a 1-0 game against Bellarmine for the longest time before Tennessee really broke it open in the latter innings. So the offense has even been a little slow to come about. It feels a little different around Tennessee right now, especially the fundamental part of the game, which, man, they were so buttoned up with, and you just did not see that team walk or issue free passes to people, and they did not commit errors. And that is something really over the course of the last 3 games that they have struggled with. And if you're going to give that many free bases, I mean, you're looking now at that's 6 walks and hit by pitch, 3 errors. That is 9 free bases you're giving the number 1 team in the country, and the result of it is there's 11 runs on the board against you. And it should be noted that UCLA is really, really good. UCLA is really good. Everything they had last year when they made it to Omaha, probably a year early, that's back. They have the best player in the country in Rock Chalowski at shortstop, and they improved their starting rotation where they're actually getting length out of their guys. And if they needed to add another bat to the lineup, they went and got Will Gasparino from Texas to come play center field. That's a really good ball club, and that's going to be a really tough test. It was going to be a really tough test for Tennessee to begin with, and it's going to be a really tough test for Texas A&M as well as Mississippi State. Like, UCLA should be the favorite in that event, and I think you'll look up and you'll probably see them hoisting the trophy. For what it's worth, it has not gotten better for Tennessee. The bases are loaded in the top of the 8th with 1 out, and UCLA already with 11 runs on the board. So that's probably could get a lot worse before it gets better for the Vols. Keep an eye on them the rest of the weekend, man, though, because they get to play Arizona State as well. And we just talked about that team. That team's playing well this season. State got them today, but the way Tennessee's playing, if they keep teams in the game like they have been, man, that could be a really tough one. And if Tennessee goes to this event, they lose 2 and they don't play well, and right now they have not played well today, you're going to see some noise around Josh Elander early in his tenure, much like you did around Michael early in his tenure at Texas A&M.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com. Check them out, Rouse's.com, or get to their Facebook page. You can always see specials and different things that they have going on over at Rouse's. Of course, Fridays in Lent, they got the hot seafood bar. So if you want to go get your fried or boiled seafood on a Friday in Lent, you can always pop into Rouse's, grab and go. And, of course, they've got boiled crawfish every single day at every Rouse's location. So I encourage you to get by Rouse's. Remember, one of the great things are the crawfish are boiled in-house every day, and they're bagged and tagged already. So you just walk on into Rouse's, go up to the hot and boiled kiosk, grab your crawfish, your corn and potatoes, boom, hit the register, and you're on your way. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.
All right, still no lineup at the box, but Tigers get underway here in just a little bit more than a half an hour. So I'll give you some final thoughts on that series here as we close the show. First, Jay Johnson, when he met with the media on Thursday, did note one thing in particular that he really is wanting to see from his pitching staff.
Suppressing the big inning. That's baseball. That's part of our team goals. This is not something that's new. We didn't deal with that a lot last year. And I think using guys correctly, making sure we slot them for success, getting them to execution, and then knowing what the limit maybe is for them can help that, but good defense helps that too. We need to handle the ball. And all of them are a little different. The 3-run inning Kaysen had against Indiana was weird. The ball left the infield one time. Sometimes there's an element of baseball being baseball, and I hate that. I hate saying that. I want to control everything, but unfortunately there's a little element to that.
That's one of the most honest things Jay Johnson has ever said. I want to control everything. He does a pretty good job at that, but it's in lockstep with something we talked about earlier, man. It's that big hit. LSU's got to get out of those innings without allowing the big hit. Just limit the damage. We talked about Tuesday night. You walked in a couple runs, but that happened with 2 outs. The big blow was the 2-out, 2 RBI single that turned a 2-spot into a 4-spot. You get out of there with just those 2 runs, you're right there in the ball game. In fact, it's tied at that point in the game, and it feels completely different. That's been a thing for LSU this season. So limit the damage in the big innings. Try your best to avoid the big hit that scores multiple runs and takes that number from a 1 to a crooked number, or even a really, really crooked number out there at the box. And you heard him there. You got to play good defense. The fundamentals are going to be key. That's what we talked about. If you don't let these teams in the game, don't think they have enough to really stick with you this weekend. LSU feels far and away vastly superior. I think it's a big bounce back for LSU this weekend. Really kind of one they needed. Tuesday night was a little sluggish, a little lethargic. There was some real sloppiness, obviously, in that game on offense, at the plate, and on defense, really in all 3 phases at some point there for the Tigers, definitely on the mound. So a good, clean weekend, bounce back for LSU is what I'm expecting. I rarely predict sweeps. I hate doing that because you just heard Jay Johnson. There's an element of randomness. It's baseball sometimes, right? But I do think this is a weekend that LSU does go out there and they win all 4 and really get back on track here against Dartmouth and Northeastern. First pitch from the box, a little more than 30 minutes away. Kaysen Evans will toe the rubber for LSU. We do know that. I'll give it one last refresh, see if there's a lineup, and there's not. Oh, well. You know what's going to happen? As soon as we go off air, as I walk out of this studio at 6 o'clock, LSU is going to post the lineup. And that's going to make me a little upset. But it's okay. We'll get over it. We'll go watch some baseball at the box. We'll be back here for you on Monday, recapping everything we saw. Matt will be back on Monday as well. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the show today. It was a lot of fun, jam-packed, a lot of good stuff that we went through there. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. AFR On Demand, presented by Brett Goff, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search after Further Review. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you to Taylor for hanging out. Thank you to Paul as well. And thank you to all of you. We'll see you next week here on AFR.